Hello YouTube, I'm Michael Morgan and this is Retro Book Reviews. I thank you for joining me today. And if you like what you hear and see, hit the subscribe button and click the bell to get notified every time a new video gets uploaded. And today we're going to be reviewing Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. Now, if you haven't seen my last video, I reviewed Epictetus and the Art of Living. And Epictetus, as I mentioned in the video, is a Stoic philosopher, and so is Marcus Aurelius. Now, it's not going to be a channel dedicated to Stoicism or Stoic writings. I just thought this would be a good follow up to what I talked about with the Epictetus last week. Now, the interesting thing about Marcus Aurelius' Meditations was that this was never meant to be a book for anybody to read. In fact, Meditations was actually what became the Book of Meditations was actually Marcus Aurelius' personal journal. He would just the things that he would jot down about life, about philosophy, about the nature of death, or whatever was on his mind at the time. He just jotted it down in a journal. And for this episode, we're going to be reading from the Martin Hammond translation. As you see, this is a Penguin book. It's very inexpensive. I found this at a Barnes and Noble several years ago. I've read through it multiple times. This is a very useful book. It's a book that helps you kind of get refocused on what's going on. This can help direct your thoughts in a better direction if you're going through a difficult time. Now, for those of you who may not know who Marcus Aurelius is, I'll give you a quick background. Marcus Aurelius lived from 121 AD to 180 AD. He's often considered to be one of the last great emperors of Rome. He was joint emperor of Rome with his adopted brother Lucius from 161 AD to Lucius's death in 169 AD. And then Marcus Aurelius ascended to the throne himself from 169 to his death to 180 AD. Now, if you're a movie buff and you remember the movie Gladiator, it won, of course, multiple Academy Awards in for the year 2000. Marcus Aurelius was portrayed at the beginning of the movie by Richard Harris, who maybe of you know. He was English Bob in Unforgiven, a Clint Eastwood classic, and he was also the original Dumbledore in the Harry Potter movies until his death. Now, obviously, the movie Gladiator is not 100% historically accurate. If a spoiler alert for the movie, if you haven't seen the movie, it portrays Marcus Aurelius as being killed by his son Commodus. When that's not the case, more likely, from sources I read, Marcus Aurelius possibly died of an infection. But let's just go ahead and get back to the book. The book of Meditations. It is divided into 12 books or 12 chapters. It covers various topics. It talks about, gives details to where Marcus Aurelius was at the time that he wrote these certain passages in the book. Okay, and there are some common themes. If you've ever kept a journal yourself, your journal, it maybe have a theme. You may have a prayer journal, or you may, if you're going through some depression or anxiety, maybe you've jotted down thoughts, concerning that. Maybe you're going through some health problems. You wrote in a journal about that. And when you look back at those times in your life, you'll probably see some very common themes. And the Book of Meditations is no different. Of course, what are some of the common themes of the Book of Meditation? Okay, the first main thing is making the most of the time you have. If you ever heard the expression "live every day like it's your last," Marcus Aurelius and the Stoics in general would agree with that sentiment. However, the approach that they take would be quite different as to how our popular culture, makes that expression out to be. Because in our modern times, people take live each day like it's your last to mean just to live like a total pagan, live like a rock star, go out and party, do all these illicit activities. It kind of, but that's not how Marcus Aurelius thought about that issue. But Marcus Aurelius, his thought was, to give consideration to how you live your life. Yeah, so whatever you're doing in this life, do it to the best of your ability. Give thought and consideration to how you're thinking, to how you're living, because you know I'm going to get kind of getting into the second point here a little bit, but we have to be mindful that our life could end at any time. So speaking about living each day like it's your last, Marcus Aurelius writes, remember how long you've been putting this off. How many times you have been given a period of grace by the gods and not used it. It is high time now for you to understand the universe of which you are a part, and the governor of that universe of whom you constitute an emanation, and that there is a limit circumscribed to your time. If you do not use it to clear away the clouds, it will be gone, and you will be gone, and the opportunity will not return. So, no matter how long we live on this earth, even if we're blessed with 80, 90, 100 years, of course, there are some people that live to be over 100. How much time you have, there's a limit to that time. And in the grand scheme of things, the amount of time that we live is just barely shows up as a blip on the rate. If the universe was a radar, it would just be a bloop, just and that would be it. That would be our life, just as the Bible describes that our life is like the dew on the grass. It's there when you get up, but become midday, the dew's gone. There's no trace that there was ever dew on the grass. I'm just paraphrasing there. It is important to recognize at the moment what we have in the moment, because that may be all that we have. And as I alluded to, the second point that Marcus Aurelius thinks about, or he discusses, is death. Now we know that death is not a pleasant subject. We try to avoid it at all costs. So we try to take good care of ourselves by eating right, exercising, taking the medications that we're prescribed. And it's something, we buy life insurance to take care of our families in the event, in the event that we die. But it's something that we think about it, but we try to avoid it. I mean, sometimes we make jokes about it. But however, the fact is, no matter how long we live on this earth, death comes for each of us. None of us are going to make it out of here alive. And so we always have to consider the possibility of death with everything we do, with our behavior as people, with how we treat others, and just how we live our lives in general. And then Marcus Aurelius, his thoughts on it were, even if you were destined to live 3,000 years or 10 times that long, nevertheless remember that no one loses any life than the one he lives, or lives any life other than the one he loses. It follows that the longest and the shortest lives are brought to the same state. And so, no matter if someone is rich, if someone is poor, doesn't matter, the color of your skin or how long you live, we all come to the same state. There's I don't remember the exact quote, but Marcus Aurelius also wrote that this rough paraphrase that death waves at us all, and all we can do is just wave back. Okay, now if you watched my last video with the Epictetus, one of the things that he talked about was the things that are within our control and the things that are not in our control. And Epictetus used the phrase for the things out of control as externals, and the externals are or just as to whether we're liked by people, whether we'll be wealthy, whether we'll have a long life, whether we'll be in good health, or whatever the case was. Anything outside of our immediate control, Epictetus referred to that as externals, and Epictetus taught not to be not to go after the externals, not to be bothered by the externals because you can't control those things. And Marcus Aurelius also had thoughts on the externals, just the same as Epictetus did. And Marcus Aurelius, he taught not to be fearful of the externals. Okay, and according to Marcus Aurelius, it is our judgment of events that bother us, as opposed to the events themselves. And and according to Marcus Aurelius, he wrote, "And here are two of the most immediately useful thoughts you will dip into. First, that things cannot touch the mind; they are external and inert. Anxieties can only come from your internal judgment." So it is how we think about events. It's whether how we're anxious, or maybe we're discouraged, or depressed, or fearful. It is how we think about the events, not the event itself. The event itself is just the event. It's your interpretation of that event, how your mind interprets it. And the second point that he makes is, second, that all these things you see will change almost how it will change almost how you look at them, and then there'll be no more. Constantly bring to mind all that you yourself have already seen changed. The universe is change. Life is judgment. So what he's saying is that all these things that bother us, that we allow to bother us, that give us anxiety, that make us fearful, make us live in the past, make us discouraged, is they're going to be gone. Things change. People change. People come and go. Situations come and go in your life, because that's the one constant in our universe is change. Everything is changing. And because think about maybe you dealt with some difficult people in high school. Where are those people at in your life now? I mean, you think about the problems that you've overcome, that you've been through in your life, and those problems are in the past. You can't do anything about it now. It's over. And we just have to recognize that life goes on. We can't spend our time dwelling on the past, living in the past, thinking about the good old days. We get so nostalgic for how life used to be. But it's important for us to move on and to our life now. And this kind of goes along with the last point I mentioned about not being fearful of the externals, is to be mindful of our thoughts. Because just as our thoughts, it can talk us into anxiety. It can talk, we can talk ourselves into things and out of things. Sometimes I've experienced this in my own life. I've talked myself into things that I shouldn't have talked myself into, and then I've walked away from things I shouldn't have walked away from. It's of course, hindsight is 20/20, and there's nothing that you can do about those decisions now. But we have to but we have to consider what thoughts we're having at any given moment in life, because our thoughts influence our judgment, and our thoughts can have an effect on our physical and mental health. And Marcus Aurelius, he also noted the effect our thoughts have on our character. He said, "Your mind will take on the character of your most frequent thoughts. Souls are dyed by thoughts." And concerning the future, Marcus Aurelius, he wrote, "Do not let the future trouble you. You will come to it if that is what you must possess of the same reason that you apply now to the present. So, if we're always living a life of anxiety and if we're just tightly wound and stressed all the time, how are you thinking about that situation? For example, as I upload this video, it is a Sunday. And the work week starts over for me tomorrow, and as that probably does for many of you watching. You can let the thoughts of the upcoming week, dominate your mind. Yeah, but it takes you out of the enjoyment of the present moment. I mean, you have a night away, you have a night with your family, you have a night to relax. However, you choose to spend this time. So don't let the thoughts of the future, take away from your enjoyment of the present moment, because you're gonna, if it's God's plan for you, for us, we're gonna wake up tomorrow morning and Monday's gonna come and go, Tuesday is gonna come and go, and it's gonna be the same thing until until the next week. We'll get through one week, and then the next week will come, and we'll just apply what we learned the previous week to the current week. I mean, this a day in the calendar is no different from any other day. So we just have to, just keep our reason about us, keep our wits about us. Even in the midst of everybody else around you is having anxiety, or just I face this in several jobs that I've had, and just being around people in general. Sometimes you can easily get caught up in someone else's anxiety, someone else's anger, somebody else's frustration, and people are always willing to, drag somebody down, into the mud. If you're not in the mud, you don't have to get in the mud with them. Just stay out of the mud. But we just have to constantly, think about what we're thinking about, for lack of a better phrase to put it. And so as we go forth with this week, with this day, let's just apply the same calm, and cool, and collective reasoning to our situation, not to be bogged down by the everyday minutia, not to be bogged down by the past, or what this person thinks, or what this person thinks, what's happening here. Let's just focus on living the best life that we can, because we don't know how long of a life we're going to have. So we have to make the most of it, as Marcus Aurelius brilliantly puts it in Meditations. And I highly recommend this book. I mean, it's much like Epictetus's The Art of Living. You don't have to be a philosophy major to understand this book. I mean, it is a great insight to a great leader. To one of the last great emperors of Rome. It's just a great insight on how to live, that even people in high positions, they often struggle with the same things that we struggle with. And so I recommend you get a copy of this book, and just really, and just dig deep into it. And I just thank you for joining me today. Once again, if you like to see some future videos, hit the subscribe button there. And thank you for taking the time out of your day. And God bless you.